Welcome to Teach Me Animated Math. In this solve-along video, you will learn how to do scientific notation, multiplication and division from a detailed discussion of techniques used in solving this worksheet. How is scientific notation, multiplication and division any different from regular multiplication and division? Are there special rules that we can use to make it simple? From the first video about scientific notation, you learned that it follows the form a times 10 to the nth power. Now, let's say that you have a second number in scientific notation represented by b times 10 to the mth power. Scientific notations use exponents to represent very large and very small numbers. This means that you can simplify scientific notation, multiplication and division by applying concepts from the properties of exponents or laws of exponents. I put the link in the upper right corner of the video and the description below in case you are not yet familiar with it. These special rules will pretty much make solving scientific notation, multiplication and division much easier for you. So pay close attention. First, let's learn how to do scientific notation multiplication. You can find the product of these two scientific notation numbers by multiplying the coefficients a and b. Then, you simply have to add the exponents of 10, or n plus m. And the product from the scientific notation multiplication is ab times 10 raised to n plus m. This concept is from the product rule of exponents. And if you can remember this property, then doing scientific notation multiplication will be a piece of cake for you. Next, let's learn how to do scientific notation division. You can find the quotient of these two numbers by dividing a with b. Then, you simply have to subtract the exponents of 10, or n minus m. And the quotient from the scientific notation division is a over b times 10 raised to n minus m. This concept is from the quotient rule of exponents. And if you can remember this law, then doing scientific notation division will be a walk in the park. But of course, I know that right now, these two formulas might just look like mumbo jumbo that don't even mean anything to you. And as the great Bruce Lee said, knowing is not enough, we must apply. Willing is not enough, we must do. Just memorizing these two formulas isn't enough. You must apply these concepts by solving problems involving scientific notation, multiplication, and division. So, solve along with me to gain mastery of it. Just remember that the final answers need to be in scientific notation. There will be a 3-second countdown before I start solving each problem. You can pause the video and solve it on your own first, or just watch the video straight. Alright, let's start solving. This is a pretty straightforward problem because it can be solved by directly applying the formula for the scientific notation multiplication. So find the product of the coefficients and the sum of the exponents. 3 times 2 is equal to 6, and 3 plus 4 is 7. The final answer is 6 times 10 raised to 7. This problem can also be solved by directly applying the formula for the scientific notation multiplication. Similar to the last problem, find the product of the coefficients and the sum of the exponents. But take note that the exponents are negative and you have to be careful with the sign changes. 4 times 5 is equal to 20, and negative 5 plus negative 6 is also negative 5 minus 6, or negative 11. Currently, the coefficient is 20, and by scientific notation definition, the coefficient should be greater than or equal to 1, and less than 10. So, divide 20 by 10, and add 1 to the exponent negative 11. And if you think about it, the pattern is that when you move the decimal point of 20 to the left by 1 place, you also needed to add 1 to the exponent of 10. The final answer is 2 times 10 raised to negative 10. Remember this shortcut because it will save you time when converting numbers into scientific notation. And you will be using it for the problems in this Solve Along worksheet. This is another scientific notation multiplication application, and I hope that by now you're getting a lot more familiar with it. Find the product of the coefficients and the sum of the exponents. This one involves both positive and negative exponents, so be careful with the sign changes. 7.5 times 8.2 is 61.5, and 5 plus negative 3 is also 5 minus 3, or 2. So again, 61.5 is greater than 10, which means that the number is not yet in scientific notation. But to make things more exciting, you'll be using the shortcut from the previous problem. And the final answer is 6.15 times 10 to the third power. This problem can be solved by directly applying the formula for the scientific notation division. Perform division for the coefficients and subtraction for the exponents. 8 divided by 2 is 4, and 25 minus 21 is 4. This will give you a final answer of 4 times 10 raised to 4. This is another worksheet item involving division and scientific notation. Perform division for the coefficients and subtraction for the exponents. Be careful with subtraction though, because the exponents are negative. 3 divided by 6 is 0.5, and negative 12 minus negative 14 is just negative 12 plus 14. Simplifying it will give you 0.5 times 10 squared. The coefficient 0.5 is less than 1, which means that the number is not in scientific notation. So, multiply 0.5 with 10 and subtract 1 from the exponent 2. This pattern is somewhat similar to shortcut number 1 that you learned from worksheet item number 2. When you move the decimal point of the coefficient to the right by 1 place, you must also subtract 1 from the exponent of 10. The final answer is 5 times 10 to the first power. Let's label it as shortcut number 2 and remember it because it will come handy for future problems. This is another worksheet item that uses the scientific notation division formula. Perform division for the coefficients and subtraction for the exponents. Be careful with subtraction though, because the exponent from the denominator is negative. 2.8 divided by 1.12 is 2.5, and 16 minus negative 6 is 16 plus 6. This will give you a final answer of 2.5 times 10 to the 22nd power. This problem is interesting because you need to find the product of 3 scientific notation numbers. And even though the formula for scientific notation multiplication uses only 2 scientific notation numbers, it can in fact be used for multiple factors as well. Multiply all 3 coefficients and add all 3 exponents. 1 times 2 times 3 is equal to 6. 3 plus 4 plus 5 is equal to 12. This will give you a final answer of 6 times 10 raised to 12. Now, let's try using mixed exponent signs to make it more interesting. This is still scientific notation multiplication, so just use the formula. Multiply all 3 coefficients and add all 3 exponents. Again, be careful with handling the sign changes. 7.5 times 2 times 4 is equal to 60, and negative 8 plus 5 plus negative 7 is just negative 8 plus 5 minus 7. Simplifying it will give you 60 times 10 raised to negative 10. Oops, the coefficient 60 is greater than 10. So, convert it into scientific notation by using shortcut number 1 again. This will give you a final answer of 6 times 10 raised to negative 9. Since you've tried both scientific notation, multiplication, and division already, let's push the boundaries of your application by doing something more challenging. In this problem, you need to apply both formulas of scientific notation, multiplication, and division. Multiply the coefficients from the numerator and divide it with the coefficient from the denominator. Add the exponents from the numerator and subtract the exponent from the denominator. 6.2 times 4.4 divided by 2.2 is equal to 12.4. And 5 plus 22 minus 17 is equal to 10. But since 12.4 is greater than 10, you have to use shortcut number 1 again to convert the number into scientific notation. This will give you a final answer of 1.24 times 10 raised to 11. For the last problem, let's extend your knowledge of scientific notation, multiplication, and division by performing the operations involving 4 scientific notation numbers. Multiply the coefficients from the numerator and divide it by the product of the coefficients from the denominator. Add the exponents from the numerator and subtract the exponents from the denominator. There are many sign changes here, so try to be careful in your computations. 1.5 times 9 divided by 4.5 times 6 is equal to 0.5. 21 plus negative 15 minus negative 12 minus 8 is also 21 minus 15 plus 12 minus 8. Simplifying it will give you 0.5 times 10 raised to 10. But wait! 0.5 is less than 1. This means that it is time for you to apply shortcut number 2 to convert the number into scientific notation. And the final answer is 5 times 10 raised to 9. Congratulations! You just finished this solve-along worksheet. We want to know more about your pain and struggle in math, so comment below which problem you find most interesting and let us know why. Now that you know how to do scientific notation, multiplication, and division, and also recognize some of the common mistakes that you might make, it means that it's time for me to leave you with a little exercise. Can you try solving these on your own? Just remember that the final answers need to be in scientific notation. Comment your answers below. We will be revealing the answers and step-by-step solutions in our next solve-along video. It'll be about word problems involving scientific notation. So be sure to subscribe to Teach Me Animated Math. And don't miss out. See you next time.